And let's get into our first top story, of course, which is happening right here in Lagos State. Now, the Lagos State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal yesterday affirmed the victory of Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu and dismissed the petitions of Olajide Adeniran Jandor of the People's Democratic Party and Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour of the Labour Party. In a unanimous judgment read by Justice Mikail Abdullahi on behalf of the three-man panel, the tribunal held that the petitions brought by Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour and the Labour Party and Olajide Adediran of the People's Democratic Party lacked merit, and the same was accordingly dismissed. Now, in reaching the verdict, the court dwelt on the preliminary objections raised by the parties before considering the issues raised for determination. The tribunal also entertained the question of whether it had the competence and jurisdiction to hear the petition. Now, Justice Abdullahi answered this question in the affirmative and held that these issues had already been resolved at the preliminary objection stage.
Oh, well. We, of course, will be joined this morning by a legal practitioner to x-ray these issues and look at the little details here and there as to how the court, reached its verdict. And, of course, the Labour Party and the PDP, would also speak with us this week to share with us, what steps will be taken next, if they're going to be going to the appeal court or they're going to be letting it go at this point, But, I think the big thing, that would be called into question really is whether a lot of Nigerians expected different. Even Lagosians expected different from the court, and how many people, of course, you expected that this would likely be the direction that the court will take. And, some of the things that have also been called to question, the accusations of dual citizenship by the Lagos State Deputy Governor, some of the, of course, allegations of basically INEC not carrying out elections according to, the rules that have been laid down by the electoral laws that the Labour Party was also pursuing. These are some of the things that, were eventually tossed out, in the court. We'll see what happens next, basically.
And we have heard from the Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who has said that this victory was a call to greater service while assuring that his government would continue to work harder to deliver dividends of democracy to the people. He said, and I quote, "It was a long and tough process, but we are grateful that the voice of the people of Lagos was heard and upheld. The Deputy Governor and I are very privileged and thankful to residents for standing for and by us. It was a victory for all, no winner, no loser." Now, a number of issues did come up in the elections here, particularly in Lagos State at the governorship level. We know how things ended at the presidential level with the elections, but Lagos State was a very important state to watch for many people in terms of picking sort of the tone of the people when it came to the issues around the APC. This is also the state that Nigeria's current president governed for 2 years after the country returned to democracy in 2 terms, I beg your pardon, after the country returned to democracy in 1999. So it has been now President Tinubu's party that has held sway in the country, in the state since then. And there were questions as to whether or not people have felt that the party had delivered in the number of years that it had held and been in control of politics and governance here in Lagos.
Absolutely. And, also a reminder, that all of these stem from the March 18th elections that were, from what observers said, were marred with, different levels of violence and, disruptions, basically. There was also, loads of tribalism. Many places around Lagos saw thugs get involved with the electoral process, disenfranchise, many people. The argument after the elections were that, the observers couldn't have seen, just a handful of these polling units and use that to judge, the narrative concerning the elections generally across Lagos State, which, fair enough. But at the same time, doesn't mean that those things should not be questioned. And also the use of the rules that were set by the Electoral Act and by the Independent National Electoral Commission all through the electoral process, were also questioned as to whether the elections were free, fair, and credible. Like I said earlier, the dual citizenship of the Lagos State Deputy Governor was also called to question, amongst other things that were, of course, put in the spotlight for the Election Petitions Tribunal.
And That issue that you just brought up now, interesting enough, some would say that there's been a bit of a determination on it because at the presidential level, it's also part of what made up a little bit of the conversation around the presidential election petitions as well. But we've heard a lot about what's been happening here in Lagos. It's also interesting that we heard that the tribunal described the PDP's governorship candidates as a busybody. When it came to the fact that he was saying that Governor Sanwo-Olu was not qualified to contest the election because he was improperly nominated and supported by his party, but the tribunal said that it could not decide on that. And all parties to the election have every single right to come before the tribunal to contest, or to at least say that they don't believe that the verdict that came out and the way things led to a certain verdict are the way that things should have been. But of course, there's options. There's options that take this much further for both of the parties involved. It's also interesting for many people as well that Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour was the one who approached the tribunal, didn't seemingly have the support of his party at the state level, but apparently, because we did speak to him yesterday, expecting that we'd be able to have him on the breakfast show today, him and the party are discussing, and the party has said that they will consult with him and decide what their next decision will be. So this is definitely an ongoing situation, one that is not going to wrap up right now, one that we're still going to see move further. Are we going to see it move further with the PDP and its governorship candidate and the Labour Party and its governorship candidates, or is it going to be only one? Or will we see gentlemen sheathe their swords and decide that they don't want to take this case much further?
Okay, well, absolutely. And, just before we bring in our guest, we have Barrister Maxwell Opara joining us. He's a lawyer and a human rights activist. Just to quickly, share, where the conversations are coming from. Section 182 of the Nigerian Constitution, states that no person shall be qualified for election to the office of governor of a state if, I think at the bottom part there says he has been elected to office at, it says subject to the provisions of Section 28 of the Constitution, he has voluntarily acquired the citizenship of a country other than Nigeria, or, except in such cases may be prescribed by the National Assembly, has made declaration of allegiance to such other country. One of the things, of course, that was x-rayed. But Barrister Maxwell Opara, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, my brother. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good to have you.
I'm having problems with this. You can go on with this. I'm watching right here, but I can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Well, if we can maybe struggle through the interview. I just want to start with getting your thoughts on the ruling yesterday. Was anything shocking for you?
Well, I can say that it's shocking to an extent, and it's not shocking to an extent, because, the judgment of a court of appeal in the case of P2B, Atiku Abubakar, Labour Party, and the DPP against Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president, and the APC. That judgment, I want to say it is creating more harm than good, because the judgment now declared as anything that has to do with the qualification of a candidate. They have now resolved it as a re-election matter. Because for you, we are not talking about for you to serve as the president of Nigeria, just like as you rightly pointed out. The Constitution says that you must qualify. And they now cast everything and square it on a re-election matter that has to be dealt with at the Federal High Court and before the election and what have you. So I think that judgment needs to be revisited and corrected by the Supreme Court. Because when somebody challenges that this person is not qualified, as a result of the fact that he's not a citizen of Nigeria, and as a result of the fact that the person forged the document, you don't say that it is a pre-election matter. The person is saying that this person is not qualified at the nation. He is not qualified to stand as the as the deputy governor or governor or president or vice president, as the case may be. So you should have looked at that particular issue on its merit, whether the person is qualified to even contest. You cannot say that no, it's a pre-election matter that he's not supposed to challenge at the tribunal. So that's where I have issue. And I believe that this is the tribunal. Let's see what Court of Appeal will do. And I believe that this matter will still also travel up to Supreme Court. So that's my take.
Okay, and it's interesting you mentioned that because, as you said, this tribunal now seems to have been setting some kind of precedent with that judgment on what they call pre-election matters, and the fact that it does not have powers to inquire into the primary election of the APC candidate. But beyond that, there's something else that has caught a lot of people's attention. And that is, of course, the fact that the tribunal also struck out the names of the Labour Party and its candidate, Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour, among the list of respondents, saying a petition is contemplated to be filed between the winner and the loser of an election and not between two persons who lost. This case in Lagos looking like a small reflection of the case we had at the national level. So in terms of the fact that they struck out Gbadebo Rhodes-Vivour's petition, what do you make of that? Can any party, any individual involved in election, should that mean that it's only 1 and 2, first place and second place, that have any issues to contend with when it comes to elections?
She is as good as mine. Just like as I said, because I have not been able to read the full judgment, but from what I have seen, the news has been carried out, and from what I have been seeing, that has been reported. So I don't know the basis for this judgment, for Christ's sake, because they are relying on probably what a court of appeal has said. And I believe that when the Supreme Court will review all the whole matter, both that of the president and the one of that is mandated from other states, we'll be able to know the position of the law, because the law is clear. If somebody who contested an election is alleging that this person did not meet up with this particular condition, the evidence should be revealed. It's not something that you will slaughter on the altar of a technicality. We are talking about substantive justice, because I have said it in some other fora that election is supposed to be treated as an election for the national for Nigerians, not for Labour Party, not for anybody, because Nigerians voted and they know the people that they voted for. So you should look at that trajectory, then apply substantive justice, not to dismiss, not to strike out a matter based on a mere technicality. So just like as I said, when the matter gets to Court of Appeal, from Court of Appeal to Supreme Court, we'll be able to know the position. But for me, I have issues with the judgment. I must say it with a low voice.
Yeah, but I mean, the way it seems, I mean, we've seen what happened with the Enugu State ruling. We've seen what has happened in Kano State. We also, of course, saw the presidential elections. And of course, Lagos yesterday. Would you expect anything different in, higher courts? Should they go to the appeal? Should they bother going to the Supreme Court? Is there any need at this point from your analysis on, these judgments?
Yes, of course. It's just like we are going to federal court now. With respect to that, because the matter commenced yesterday, with respect to the forged NYS certificate of Peter Mba of Enugu State. We are still going to federal court now. Now, that particular issue, I am saying, is also another issue that throws us into confusion. Because the person, somebody is not qualified. The law says is not qualified. As a result of forged documents, as a result of the documents you tendered, is unknown to law, is forged. So I think that particular issue should be dealt with before even whether he's qualified. You cannot say that it's a pre-election matter, going by what Court of Appeal said. That's why I said, I continue to say it. Let the matter get to Supreme Court. Let Supreme Court tell us the position, because the essence of the Supreme Court giving us this judgment is for us to know the position of the law. If you watch when the president Buhari said that he has certificate and deposed an affidavit, and the Supreme Court said if you say that you are a professor or a PhD, the only thing you need to do is to go to any court, depose an affidavit, that affidavit suffices. That is what we are complaining. Look at the issue that somebody brought to court and forget about technicality. You cannot just say that it's a pre-election matter. So all this judgment that is coming up from all this tribunal and this thing, we are waiting. We believe that Supreme Court will do justice to it.
So I want to take further up on sort of the role that we saw the Labour Party candidate Rhodes-Vivour play in this, because the judge, the tribunal also did something quite interesting after saying that he could not be added to the PDP candidate's petition. The judgment also read, or rather the judges, I beg your pardon, also said that all exhibits tendered in evidence by Rhodes-Vivour in the petition were also expunged from the tribunal's records. And the tribunal clarified that Rhodes-Vivour cannot later challenge any parts of Adediran's petition judgment or risk becoming a meddlesome interloper, what some headlines today are saying that the tribunal called him a busybody. When we look at this, some of the evidence that was tendered, how that evidence possibly could have played into the situation we found in front of us, and then saying that he could not later challenge any part of the petition judgment. How does that sound to you? Does that sound like someone getting a fair hearing, or that all evidence presented before the courts was, of course, considered, or even someone being denied the possibility of further appeal in a case where he might have felt that he was denied his right?
Yeah, you have answered your question. You have answered your question because in law, when evidence is being tendered, you review that particular evidence and make a comment on it, whether to admit or not to admit. If you are admitting the evidence, you state the reason of admissibility of that evidence. If you are rejecting the evidence, you state the reason of rejecting that evidence. Just like what you see in that of the president, that they rejected the evidence on the grounds that the subpoena witnesses witness statement of oath were not front-loaded. This is the highest miscarriage of justice, because you are talking about subpoena witness. Subpoena witness is a witness that court to subpoena, and you don't expect such a witness statement to be front-loaded at the time of filing that particular process, because the subpoena witness is a reluctant witness that have no interest and was compelled to appear by the tribunal. So the point I'm trying to make is that I don't see the basis, because the evidence we are not reviewed, it were not evaluated to suit into for you to rely out on it and pass the judgment. Just like as I said, when the full judgment is out, we go through it, and then we will now make our own final comments on it. But from what I've seen, from the reason we have seen reported so far, I don't agree with that position of the law.
All right.
Even that judgment.
Maxwell, Opara, we of course will be speaking with you again. Thanks for your thoughts and for your time this morning.
It's my pleasure.
All right.
All right. And as we said earlier, we'll be expecting to hear officially from both candidates who were involved in this this tribunal judgment. That is the candidate of the PDP, as well as the candidates of the Labour Party for the governorship election here in Lagos State that take place on March 18th. We're already getting preliminary feelers. Many are unhappy and are, of course, questioning some of the decisions that the judges took and, of course, the backing that they've given for those decisions. But it's an ongoing story. It's a developing story here in Nigeria, and we'll be following very closely.
Absolutely.